things from the players individually. Like Tabs, he just enters a team fight and instantly just gets run over by like a hacker. And it's just like, well, my contribution to this fight is just over now.
I guess
like,
I volleyed this one guy for like 50 damage and now I'm dead.
That's it. Yeah, and now it's up to the rest of my team to do the rest of this fight. Okay, so back into these bans. So Rice, Calm, and Nidalee were the bans last time from Misfits, and Brom, Rumble, Trundle from Millenium. So far, exactly the same.
I like the karma again. I think you can first pick her, but by banning on red side, on blue side, it obviously tells us that Misfits has a very clear like S tier first pick in mind. We've seen Shen being first picked a lot. He is banned in this case here. Then, I mean, LCS we've seen either jungle first picks or like AD carry first picks, like things like Caitlyn has been first picked a few times. Things like obviously like Gragas, who can go both jungle and top, but then also like Nidalee has been first picked quite a few times. So there's a lot of different picks that teams still value. Vladimir was another one, but now with the nerfs, I don't think you should first pick him. But you should respect him as a last pick, and that's why I think it's a smart ban.
I mean, the Vladimir was still good last game as well.
Exactly.
You saw how oppressive it was in lane, even against the Victor. Shen will be banned out, was picked by Misfits last time, and Irelia was a final ban against Alphari. I mean, yeah, we're seeing way more like Irelia nowadays, and Alphari is really good on the high skill cap champions, so we're taking that away. And what does that leave open? Nidalee, who was banned last time actually by Misfits, so I'm going to give that to Wisdom. Had some good performances on that. Yeah,
with all the top lane picks, the AD carry picks open, I don't think you needed to value first picking AD carry at all.
Yeah.
I think Nidalee makes perfect sense. She still has the potential to take over games. You need to draft things against her that can actually punish her in the early game. So like a pick like LeBlanc does well because jungle plus LeBlanc against Nidalee, you can just one-shot her every single time. But if you pick something like a Victor who sits back and just like wants to farm for the first 10-15 minutes, Nidalee kind of gets free roam on the map, and that can be a big issue. So I want to see Millenium draft something that can actually shut down a Nidalee in the early game, have some burst in there against a very, very squishy champion. Obviously, for Millenium, you can early pick your jungler now if you just want to see more. Like at least combined with a mid lane who actually has early pressure, can shut down a Nidalee.
Yeah,
it's a team effort.
It's a team effort, and we saw a lot of team play. It was more like skirmishes more than like full-blown fights before we got a little bit later. But Hecarim will come out again with the Ashe, but now going to combine those two. So that will be over to Millenium.
I mean, it does remove one of the biggest problems for the Ashe pick last game was the fact that the Hecarim would dive onto her with Trinity Force and just almost one-shot her every single time. So they do manage to remove one pick from Misfits and still lock in the Ashe, but technically, if you are Misfits here, you can run Sivir one more time if you want to and have like this super crazy teamfight comp that can just engage at you. But Nidalee obviously doesn't fit those compositions. She's much better in skirmish. So I actually think this adaptation is pretty smart. Moving away from a pure teamfight and composition with Sivir into way more lane control, like strong laning phase, into very strong skirmish, very strong duelist, like Lucian still is. While he has a weaker laning phase than before, 1v1 against an AD carry like Ashe, he's still very, very strong.
Still great in skirmishes, and Thresh as well, really good in those scenarios. So Millenium, because they have the Ashe, they have the Engage, they already have the Hecarim. So where do they go from here? Do they just
Well, they have to either blind pick mid lane here and save Hecarim as a potential flex pick to either jungle or top. To go like support mid lane. But that will require a blind pickable mid laner, so that's where we often see control mages like Victor being like one of the blind picks you can go for. Because he has so few, like he doesn't have like hard counters in lane specifically. So I would go for control mage as a blind pick, like Victor. And then save that Hecarim so you can still flex him. Okay, it's another blind pick. Also control mage and Lulu. Wow,
they lock in both of them. Okay, so that will be Lulu's support then.
This is a 6.13 comp, where shielding obviously has been buffed by certain items, where you get like bonus to shield. As an example, so when you have Orianna, Lulu, you have this double shield comp. And then Ashe, like Ashe late game, if she can keep her stacks rolling on a Q, like if she keep activating Q very often in these fights, she does a ton of damage. Her biggest problem is always this whole no mobility. So it's very hard to always maneuver in and get enough hits down, and then have to like, because you always have to move around. So if on the side of Misfits, they have something that can stop Ashe from just standing still and like shooting, they can actually prevent Tabs from being this big carry. Obviously, Orianna late game does have a lot of damage too. But you tend to like put a lot of focus on your AD carry with these kind of comps. A lot of protection right now for taps.
For sure. And Orianna as well, pretty really likes his control mages. Recently, he's adapted maybe more to the Victor. But before it was like a Nivea, Orianna were like his champions.
Right.
So he's going back to that. Feels like they're going comfort here. And
is it too much focus on the shielding part though with the Ashe here? I think the fact that they give away Victor is an issue. I can see the kind of comp they're trying to build, like just protect taps with everything you have.
Yeah.
We even see like in this situation there's Ghost being picked by Joko, so we'd assume the Hecarim is going jungle.
Yep.
But I really like this Rumble pick. Because this is like what we mentioned. You need something that can stop the Ashe from just kind of standing still and hammering away.
Equalizer does that.
Rumble ulti straight onto you will always force, like it's a massive zone you create, forcing the Ashe to move around. The only issue I have with the Rumble pick is the fact there's no real setup for it. There's no engage CC other than a hook from Ignore.
Yeah.
And that's like you're trying to set up with the Rumble, so I think that is an issue. But they've clearly gone for like champions who try to skirmish a lot. That's a Tahm Kench.
It is.
Because I'm going to say champions would like to skirmish a lot, but then Rumble is in here who actually doesn't fit that because he's a pure team fighter.
So yeah, all in on protect tabs this game.
Literally
Tabs.
all in.
Tabs.
Like you couldn't have gone more all in.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some, again, if Joker gets ahead and he gets a Trinity Force, does have some damage. Orianna will have obviously good damage in the late game, but the main focus of this composition is to keep taps alive at all cost. Go like Arden, Senso, Lulu, just buff him up with shields. And see if taps can like be your big carry. I think
guess so.
Because it's only Rumble who can actually stop you from moving right now.
Yeah.
I can actually see this comp work from Millenium.
Maybe.
There's very little dive the backline this game, especially compared to last game. It's just a Rumble ulti.
Yeah, I mean like Rumble ult comes down and then Tahm Kench just eats the Ashe, repositioned Ashe, and then Ashe keeps going to town. So
who's going to tank? Like who's going to tank the Ashe damage late game?
Literally no one.
No one. like I worry for Misfits. If they fall behind with this composition, I think this late game Millenium comp is super obnoxious.
Yeah.
So I want to see a Misfits team using the strong Lucian Thresh lane to actually have a lot of pressure early game on the bottom side and therefore enable this Nidalee to play very aggressive, try and shut down Hecarim, because Nidalee is one of the champs who can shut down Hecarim early game.
Yeah.
If you can get into the jungle, if you have pressure in lanes. Rumble into Tahm Kench as a matchup is not something I've seen very often.
No, not for a long time at least. A lot of odd things happening in this game, but Misfits have a pretty good early game, so really have to try and leverage that one. You can see the full comps there. And once again, use the hashtags MSF win and MIL win. And we will have yet another crazy game. And if we do, then Misfits hopefully should be able to get so many kills early game that it doesn't matter that Millenium are ridiculously strong with the Ashe pick later into the game.
Yeah, the scaling for Millenium is super scary. Like, who are you going to kill in the late game?
No one, because Tahm Kench is going to eat them, so you have to kill the Tahm Kench first. And it's a top lane Kench, so he's going to be more tanky than usual.
Who's been buffed?
Changed, buffed.
Definitely buffed.
Definitely buffed, but
Definitely
also
buffed.
changed as well.
More damage, obviously the passive from his ulti before moved to his passive now. The passive on the ulti was moved to his actual passive and changed, nerfed quite a bit, but it is now just passively here for Tahm Kench. More range on his ulti. Yeah. And then one change I really like on him, it is basically where his shield, his thick skin, is not as strong as before. Also the fact that when you take damage now, before 100% of the damage you took used to just get instantly translated into the gray health that you can pop the shield from. That is now 70% at rank 1 and will then go to 90% at rank 5. So that is weaker, but the cooldown is greatly reduced. Only 6-second cooldown now on it. And the duration is also reduced. So that's a nerf to the duration from 6 seconds to 3 seconds. But shielding very rarely needs to last for like more than 2 or 3 seconds, because you shield when there's incoming damage, like especially burst damage, and not when there's just incoming like consistent damage from like a dot or something. So you don't actually need a 6-second Tahm Kench shield almost ever. Having a 3-second one, which a much lower cooldown, in my opinion, is way better for him and can make him so annoying to deal with.
He's already really annoying. So, see how he does in this game. What else is happening? Ignore, he's going mid lane, because he's looking for this early gank onto Pretty. Let's see how it works out. He's going to have to land this hook, but Pretty was playing towards the top side of the lane, so.
And we talked about how in order to deal with Nidalee, you need to draft something that has proper like burst and can actually fight in the early game.
Yeah.
You need to draft preferably a jungler who can also actually have value in the early game. Millenium has done none of that. They've drafted a scaling mage in the mid lane. They have drafted a jungler who really wants to get level 6 before he becomes impactful and wants to complete Cinderhole. He's very squishy before that. So this is actually a game where Wisdom can take over. So I'm looking at him. I want to see him get like... I want to see him have pressure. I want to see him get a CS lead. I want to see him try and make this a really bad game for Joko and use that as your main way to snowball as Misfits. And then obviously mid-game fights. Lucian getting Ghostblade, Rumble, Proto Belt into Magic Penetration. Mid-game is where you fight as Millennium. You do not let this game go full late game because then you can really struggle.
I don't think that Misfits will find too many problems doing that, though. They're not a team who are afraid to go for those fights. Instead, sometimes we have teams in the LCS which is like, unless this is a 100%, 0% play, there's like no risk involved, then we won't go for it. But with Misfits, it's like, well, even if there's only a 10% chance of this working, then let's just go for it anyway. And that's pretty much how Misfits have been playing.
Misfits don't have the same tools to start fights as before. Like these are the compositions where, in order for you to get the fight you want, you need to always be first at objectives.
Yeah.
And obviously start setting up a bit of deep vision around. So like if you go for Dragon on blue side as Misfits in this game here, you ward up the entrance to the river from the red side jungle. And then you have Millenium kind of forced to run down at you. And then you can suddenly win them choke points, like Rumble ulti straight onto them, Victor ulti, Victor W. Like that's the way you want to play. You want to have these situations where you are in position first. Otherwise, you run into these problems where you really want to force something.
Yeah.
And you're kind of running at them, but you rely on Ignar to land like a max range hook, we call fishing for targets, and it is very difficult even against a catfish.
Yeah, very, very difficult. And all these targets are very far away. Like only Joko and like Kazi are going to be in hookable range. They're not really the best targets.
No, and if you hook anyone but Kazi, he can always eat the target if there are 5 together.
Or Pretty puts the ball on top of them and then they get ulted as well. So he's going to come in here. But there's the hook from Ignar, already setting himself well in the early game. And Pretty, he's sickened down, but the heal will come out from Pretty, keeping him alive. Has to burn both summoners. So another successful gank from Ignar. And yeah, he's been doing pretty well in the early game, just being annoying.
Timing here is really good from Ignar because the wave is actually massive and pushing towards Selfie. Joko wants to try and duel him, but it's just a bait for Pretty. Does manage to dodge it, but because the wave was actually pushing away from Pretty, Ignar shows up, forces his flash, his heal. Oh, another spear! Is Wisdom gonna flash over?
He could have maybe flashed and pounced, but he also knew that Joko was there and he was near tower, so it was risky, but I'm surprised he's... Oh, yeah, he's still looking for it.
He's literally just constantly denying experience and CS from Pretty. Because this wave is still pushing towards Selfie. So it forces Joko to stay in mid and actually push it out, and Wisdom is here now.
He's looking for the pounce. He wants the takedown. Gonna jump after him. He's one more auto attack as the foot for Wisdom, but Joko was just hitting him in the face the whole time, so he'll pick up a kill in return. And they got the assist.
And Wisdom just all in.
Yep.
For that kill, used everything while we see all the action in mid lane. Side lanes have been very standard. There is not enough of a tempo advantage for Millenium to rush the first dragon. Therefore, they will have to go back, and as we then tend to see, you swap the lanes around one more time. But then Misfits are in a position where they can push up the bottom lane, take that tier 2 tower, and if Millenium goes down to try and defend it, you just disengage from the tower and take the dragon instead. And you actually win out as Misfits in every situation, because right now Lucian is quicker at the wave, so he can deny Tahm Kench more. He can push him much faster to that tower, and if Millenium, if they want to trade, they end up trading tower for tower, but then also lose a dragon. If they go to defend with the taps, Ashe, and Masterwork, you just lose the dragon. So it's actually kind of lose-lose once you form behind in tempo here. Also because your top laner just got denied. 5-6 extra CS while Fari's moving away. He should just run. He should actually just straight run.
Here comes the good old Lulu gank. There's a TP as well from, who's it going to be? Tahm Kench. All right, Alfari.
Oh, I didn't see him walk down. He had a big ward. I didn't actually see him move down. I thought he was in the bush.
Wait a minute. Masterwork?
No, he's going to...
Will he find him into... No, I didn't global lance.
That is huge.
He got the ward, though. I can't believe he got out in that way. It was just like, oh yeah, Alfari. Ah, he just got out of here.
And I wonder
what a magician.
How much information did Alfari even have? Like, did he know they were coming that route with Lulu, so he'd path down?
The accidental Duke.
Man, that was huge. Both teams now looking to trade, but as a TP advantage for Misfits, and already obviously with the Rumble getting more farm as you talked about before, they can now take this tower.
Yeah.
And I just spilled tea all over the place.
Indeed. So
even on the screen.
Top push, Millenium going to be pushing down this tower, and we're just going to swap up lanes as well. So see how this one works out. A lot of pink wards have died in the early game. It's not been a good day for pink wards. We'll just be trading up towers. So anything interesting happening in the items? No. Pretty standard. Call on both ADCs.
But now Millenium have to make a choice. Either they swap again and trade for another tower on top side, or they just take the dragon and kind of say, okay, lane swap is over. We get dragon plus tower advantage for us. But they're going back to defend here. They don't want Millenium rushing in for inhib. Obviously makes a lot of sense if you are Misfits, but it is very hard to take the inhib tower. Most of the time I actually do think it's better if you try and bounce it on that tier 2 tower and already there start pushing it back. But in this case here, inhib is defended. Could technically have just sent back like Alfari plus support and probably taken it or defended it, but I think this is perfectly fine. No harm done from either team.
And most of the time, even if you take that tower, you don't want to take the inhib, because then you just... there's a constant source of minions that's going into that lane then.
Now the only problem technically for Misfits is the fact that Alfari are not the guy pushing out the top side. So he obviously is not getting any farm right now, anywhere in the map, other than that jungle camp he just stole away. Because he has to wave on bottom side technically for this big wave to be pushed all the way down. It's too risky for him to now walk up and try and push it out. So he's actually getting completely zoned. That's why you always want to use... Let's see what happens here. Masterwork.
Masterwork, he's trying to run away. He's got pretty for the shields, and he's got his own shield as well, but he may have to flash. That was a big flash. Last spear also land onto Masterwork from Wisdom. Won't be enough to kill him, but Wisdom is doing what we hoped he would do, and is being all over this jungle right now of Millenium. Really putting down a lot of pressure. And Joko did respond with that one kill, but he's having to stay on the side that Wisdom is not. And now Misfits will push in the middle lane as well. We're definitely getting less action this game than we were last time, though.
Obviously, a much longer lane swap here. Misfits, when you put your AD carry top, you have to then go for the tower. Honestly, push it all the way in. Because you just denied your top lane of potentially 4 or 5 waves. And he needs to wait for the wave on bottom side, but if he moves there to try and take it, he might get tower dived. So therefore, he can't really do a whole lot if you're Alfari. So this is why I heavily prefer when you have these situations where people push all the way down to inhib towers, make sure it's your top laner pushing out. Your AD carry support duo is much stronger than the single top lane in the lane swap, so use your strong side, which is again, as I said, the AD carry and support, to take waves and push them past the river. Use your weak member, the top laner, to receive the waves and push them all the way up to the river point. Because therefore you make sure you maximize your top lane farm. Kaze has actually managed to catch up. Obviously he will fall further behind now because there's a big wave on bottom side for Alfari. But that could have been a massive difference between top laners, and they tend to be way more impactful than AD carries getting a slight level advantage and a slight gold advantage, because they need so much more.
More gold income. And Kaze, yeah, he's fine now. He's still farming up a storm. Meanwhile, Joko around this dragon area.
Yeah, so now, if you're Misfits, you put your AD carry bot lane with your support, and you push that past the river, because the wave on top is pushing down towards you. So you put your top lane up there and you say, okay, we denied you before, we're sorry, we still love you, please go top and take this big wave coming towards you. There's no risk of you dying. So now Misfits setting up the lanes, and I like it. I just want to see Ignore play on bottom side. You push it all the way up to where the tier 2 used to be, and then you just go in, either take dragon, or you put pressure on mid tower with your AD carry support, and you get pressure in 2 lanes at once and control the bottom side of the map.
Perfect. And then Tabs will go up to the top lane, collect that wave, and Wisdom, I think he should be able to solo this. I'm actually interested. It will be...
oh yeah, for sure. As long as he doesn't get interrupted, like by anyone, he can...
Yeah, he's okay.
Solo it. So this is fine. Perfectly fine. But this again, by having the AD carry bot side, Millenium knows they're not strong enough to contest, so they have to just give up the river. And this again why you move this AD carry around as your strong member, and you use him to push past the rivers, because now he can actually roam from bot lane in towards mid lane. Or if he thinks there's a chance that there's gonna if there's a chance something's gonna happen bot side, top side.
Yeah.
He can just recall and actually join from base real quick.
Selfie, he just launched the Chaos Storm onto Pretty. There's a hook onto Tabs though. Like good hook again from Ignat on Sword of the Shadows will save his life and maybe pick up a kill in return. Tabs is dropping low, and Joko still needs to body block for him. Selfie's coming in from mid lane, but he still doesn't have his ultimate, remember. Javelin will go wide onto Pretty. Everyone from Millenium still making their way out. Selfie, he's just cutting off one escape route.
But now we saw the roam from Hansama after pushing the bot lane. He moves into mid lane now, and suddenly there's a numbers advantage for Misfits. They get pressure in another lane just by moving from one lane to another because you push first. Joko has to jump in and try and defend, but that's, again, a little bit of damage on mid tower. Constantly getting a little bit of damage, and you can keep swapping this around. Because now the bot lane is obviously going to push back towards you, and top lane is pushing out. And you can keep swapping if you're in position to do it. Otherwise, you can just wait a minute or two and do exactly the same play again once this wave has been pushed down. It is frozen right now by Kaze, very far down on the map. So we should see Misfits just play on top side. Say, you know what, there's a top tier 2 tower. Good. Set up enemy jungle, set up towards that. Force Kaze to TP in and let this wave crash into tower. Otherwise, we just take a free tower and we get full control of enemy jungle as well. And mid tower as well, because you can go between 2 lanes.
Well, it's what they're looking for, and they do have that control. Put down deep pink wards as well. Tabs, another great spear from Wisdom. Will connect onto Tabs. He's already chunked out, and Joko will have to body block for him. Masterwork, yes, he still has his ult, but taking another spear will completely take Tabs out of action.
And right now, pretty stuck in mid lane trying to wave clear. That means 5 members from Misfits are coming top lane.
Joko is taking a lot of damage, but so is Wisdom.
Where's the Rumble ult?
As the culling out. Oh, there it is. Lays down the red carpet, and Joko will go down. Masterwork is also being followed up by Hansan with a dive under the tower, and we'll get away with it too. Alfari will be coming in here with Ignor, but he's taking tower aggro. The hook lands last second onto Pretty, keeping in place for Selfie. But Kaze will come up there into the top lane and try and save the day. Flash out from Selfie. He does not want to be licked up by Kaze for the stun. And now he'll back off. So, well, what even was that? That was a 2 for 3. Okay.
But this is again what happens, Pulse, when you try and freeze a wave really close down towards your own base, and you actually don't really want to leave as a top lane because you're trying to catch up in farm, or at least stay even in farm. And at the same time, because then you have this AD carry who can move from lane to lane, he just applies pressure in a separate lane. It forced Pretty to sit on the tower as well. In mid lane, he said, guys, I can't move first. I have to move second because I need to kill this wave first. And they have taken over our jungle. We can't move through the jungle because all Misfits members are in there. And suddenly you create a 5-man advantage on one side of the lane. It's a poor play by Wisdom first getting chunked, but they get enough damage on Joko into the ulti. Gets another kill for Hansama. And here basically you have done enough as Misfits. You have done your job. They want more though. Ignore ends up diving on the tower. And this is where it gets a little bit crazy and they end up trading a lot of kills. And now Masterwork is dead.
Called out by Ignor. And we were saying that Misfits really didn't have much engaged, but if Ignor's hitting every single hook ever, then I think it's okay. He's 0-1-4 right now, 80% kill participation. Look at that fantastic mathematical skill. Here comes Joko coming out here, but Wisdom. Oh, damage coming in from the Ignite, from the Smite and Takedown.
And that's what we talked about in Champs Select when they first picked in Italy. They move away from building a team fighting composition, like a pure team fight composition, and instead say, no, we want very strong skirmish. We want strong early games so we can take over the map, so we get the river control, so we can always set up dragons, get them for free, or you walk in and you just have to walk into Rumble ulti, Victor ulti, all these kind of things, and choke points. Therefore, you can't contest. Obviously, they still have strong team fighting because they have Victor and Rumble, but no near as strong as if, let's say, it had been like a Hecarim jungle in here, had been like a more team fight focused support at the same time, and a Sivir AD carry. This is skirmish, and they're playing it well right now, and they have gotten the control they want on the map. Look at the vision on bottom side.
And there's an engage out from Joko. The combo are pretty as well. Alpha will instantly go down. Does manage to get the equalizer out onto the retreating Hecarim, and Kaze just kind of waddled into mid lane. Not really much for him to do anymore, but with Flay not landing and Wisdom going a little too deep, here comes a cross-map arrow. Doesn't land onto any Misfits members, so after all of that, it was just the 1 kill over to Millenium onto Alfari.
Good setup though from Millenium. Problem is you invest a lot to get 1 kill, and there's still a lot of healthy members on the side of Misfits, and we're back around the mid lane because every single time we look at the minimap, at least one wave is pushed all the way down to Millenium's towers, always allowing Misfits to roam between the lanes through the jungle. There's vision in jungles from Millenium on both sides, oh sorry, from Misfits on both sides. Alfari has no flash, gets jumped by good combo, Hecarim multi into Shockwave, not a whole lot you can do.
No.
Problem is, again, now Pretty's low, Joko's low, and then your mid tower actually goes down, and what was a fine play suddenly is actually now a loss.
But now Misfits are still like 3,500 gold ahead, so they're in a decent position, and they're still being aggressive, and now the lane swap has ended, so they're all over the place. So yeah, it's not too bad, and Millenium still trying to get towards that late game, still trying to use that Ashe. Went for the Hurricane first.
Very interesting that Misfits are now playing strong side on top. Unless it's because they want to pick up the Rift Herald before Dragon. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense because you actually want your TP on the opposite side of the Infernal Drake because you want to play around Infernal Drake. They do find Kaze, so I guess them setting up a gank.
Yeah, apparently he's still very tanky, but with all of the CC out from Ignar, he's not going to get away.
But Millenium here needs to just simply either respond by ganking on the bottom side or just rush straight for this Dragon to get something.
Really great equalizer from Alfari will force the flash. And Alfari, he has to be careful because the arrow will land on top of him, keeping him in place with Joko coming down. And he's just trying to knock him closer to Taz for the slowdown, and he's going to keep chasing after him with the Rampage. Alfari's not going anywhere, and Joko should be able to pick up this kill. He's getting away with the Scrap Shield. Joko's still chasing. Onslaught of Shadows will be used to finish him off. Mid lane Pre's in for the 1v1 kill, but the Chaos Storm will come on top of him, and Masterwork will be there with the shielding.
Alfari bought enough time that Hansama took down the top lane tower before Millenium could even get the minions towards the tier 2 on bottom side. Suddenly meaning they're, again, much faster play, but now there's a big wave. Tabs is here with Joko to take it down. Nothing else happens on the map, so they end up trading. Both top laners getting ganked. Whenever you make a cross-map play, you should always know that the response from the enemy, seeing as they went on top side to obviously stop you from killing your top laner, will be killing someone on the other side of the map. So Alfari should just have ran away way before, not even shown himself, tried to ulti onto the Ashe. He tried to kill the Ashe. No, run away. You're gonna kill top. You have pressure on the enemy top tower. Just step away. He wanted more. He wanted to see if he can kill Taps, and then that's a poor play because you have no backup. Your team has just been topside with 3 members. So poor play from Alfari, even with him buying time and then getting Rift Herald. It's small things, but it does mean Misfits, instead of getting a big advantage, they give away something back to Millenium.
Seeing if they can do a little bit more, just trying to reach a little bit further. But they are still gradually getting ahead, so it's not awful.
Because try and think of a situation where Alfari stepped back to his tower. When the wave came in, he just rumble ulted the wave. And they took top tower, and he said, yeah, there we go,
complete
boys.
their game. Yep.
Now you either dive me under this tower, or we just got a free top tower. You know, that should have been the play. But Misfits are still really far ahead and looking very good in this game.
Yeah, still very far ahead and almost getting towards the 20-minute mark now, which means Baron will be spawning soon. And Lucas just roaming from lane to lane. So Millenium definitely on the back foot here. What are you doing in terms of items? Not horrifically behind, but
they're too slow scaling.
Yeah, Joko did pick up those 3 early kills, but he's so far behind on farm as well. Actually going to check how much gold he has.
I mean, this is what we talk about with the Nidalee against a composition that has no early game, really. Like, Nidalee is just free to farm every lane. So Wisdom has done his job. The scaling we talk about on Millenium side is super slow. It's a Rod of Ages, Orianna.
Yeah.
So even more time there. Ashe wants 3 items before she hits like a massive DPS power spike. Tahm Kench is just a tank.
Yeah.
Hecarim is most of the time just a tank in the jungle. So you need like another 30 or another 10 minutes where nothing really happens, but Misfits will just keep forcing plays on you. Baron is now alive, 2 dragons already, so if you're Misfits, you identify your next objective being like, well, set up Baron vision.
Yeah.
Because even if we can't burst it down, if we can force a fight around it, Millenium is going to be super weak because they're going to have to run into the river through a choke point against Rumble Victor. Like, yeah, well, that's not really going to work.
Yep. It's hard, but yeah, Joko, despite having the 3 kills, is still very far behind, just because of all that global gold and the farm. Alfari, he's getting traded up against Kaze. Oh, he's trying to take the Lantern. He's going to drag him away from him. And with Taz being there, they're actually just going to pick up the kill. That was really nice by Kaze. So another pick to Millenium. It's pretty nice to have, but there's no dragon up. There's no real objectives to capitalize on.
Exactly, and Victor can wave clear mid, so it's good Millenium gets a kill, but they need way more to really do anything. You always got to be able to get a kill into an objective if you want to like claw your way back in the game. Alfari? Not Alfari, Joko.
The tower, but luckily there's minions there, so they are able to put a bit of damage onto the tower. Hansama flanking from the side. The good old flank Lucian. And that'll force Millenium back. Javelin doesn't quite land, and Millenium have been pushed away from the tower. So after all of that, even Misfits 4v5 were able to defend that middle tower. It was Alta turret as well. So
it's just been a game here for Misfits after the lane swap where they had winning strong lanes with the Lucian Thresh, could just do whatever they wanted to push out every single lane and then apply pressure around the map all the time. Nothing Orianna can do to stop Victor from pushing, nothing Orianna can do to stop Nidalee from invading. So the mid lane as well had no pressure from Millenium, and I just want to see Misfits prioritize Baron now. Honestly, I just want to see them set up vision around this Baron, push out mid lane and top lane, and with Alphari sitting on bottom lane with teleport, and just force Millenium into a fight. Like Alphari sits bot lane, pushes with TP. Everyone else pushes mid and top, sets up vision. Millenium has to walk in to defend the Baron, get engaged on by Rumble ulti, Victor ulti, win the fight as Misfits, take the Baron. Like, that is the ideal play now. They have 2 pink wards. Ignar has to flash away, so we need to see 1 or 2 extra pinks here. It's never an excuse. If you're this far ahead, I want to see 5 pink wards on the map.
All right.
At all times, Pulse.
All the pinks. Place them down. I mean, you have the spare gold, right? And you have the item slot, so...
You have the map pressure, you have full river control.
Yep. Never an excuse. So cheap as well. Joko, he's looking for the flank onto Alphari, but Pretty did not really want to pull the trigger there. Now, Selfie's going to head up here. And Ignar's going to follow onto Tabs as well. Instant flash. Is it enough to keep him alive? Selfie's following after. Here comes Wisdom as well. TK is coming into the fight, but he's too late. He'll have to flash to safety, but he's going to get hooked back in. Masterwork's coming out there. Joko walks in and instantly wants out. The great help will have to come in from Kaze to keep both him and the horse alive. 1 kill on 2 Tabs, and this is basically a perfect setup for a Baron for Misfits.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, they had set up for the Baron, but they didn't even need to bait it because they just managed to catch out Tabs on top side, and I guess that works just as well. They can still bait.
Oh,
and they do.
work.
I like that. Again, you have full control in enemy jungle. You can start the Baron. Millenium right now, there's nothing they can do, honestly.
Yeah. And Misfits are so healthy from that as well. They're not even low. Joko, he has on Sword of Shadows, and he'll have to use it defensively because he got hooked by Ignar. Ignar's done such a good job this game, constantly landing these hooks. Pretty and Kaze, I'm going to try and get the steal of the Sentry, but not sure it's going to happen. Nope, definitely did not. And it looks like they're going to have to sacrifice someone. I believe in this case it's going to be Seafood on the menu as Catfish goes down. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Came back, Tom Kent, and you died.
Yep.
We have not seen much of the 6.13 Tom Kench yet.
No, just 1 game, and it's not the TK which lost the game for Millenium. I just want to see more of him because, of course, with the changes to his passive, he is actually pretty good in the top lane right now. So
yeah, I mean, Millenium's comp, while we praised the late game part of it, and it was funny to see the protection. Wisdom does die, but Millenium's comp just have too little pressure early game, and as I kept highlighting, have like no way of shutting down Nidalee, like at all. Have no way of shutting down Nidalee early, so she's free to apply pressure. Lucian with the armor penetration build is free to push whatever lane he wants to. And that means that you simply just get overrun. Like, there's so little you can do other than trying like to teamfight your way out. But how are you gonna teamfight with Rod of Ages, Orianna? And nothing else really.
You don't, because you're still looking for that late game, and Misfits, they basically did everything that they needed to do coming out of Champions League as well. We have a better skirmish team, we have a better early game, we have these better lanes. Let's try and leverage it. Let's go all the way back. It feels like this was like centuries ago. But it was a long string.
Happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, technically some sort of a Baron
like
setup.
ancient history.
Like, it was just setting up, you know, in the jungle, and then everyone came in from Millenium trying to help. One thing you guys need to learn about life is never help anyone.
Never help anyone. Great advice. Whoop. The arrow does not connect onto anyone, but Ignar, I'm sure he's going to connect this hook. I have faith in you, Ignar. Well, Joko will have to use another ult defensively into Devour from Kaze, so I'll take a trip back to base. Ignar, he's still fishing. He's not going to look for the hook right now, but yeah, Misfits are just in such a dominating position. Going to push down mid lane.
Oh, the Joko flank.
He's going to look for it.
This is it, Pulse.
Dude, he doesn't have Onslaught of Shadows. He's just going to walk away.
Poor flank then. Like, okay, let's see the 5-man Hecarim ulti into 5-man Shockwave into the Ashe with the Hurricane and a Q active, just nailing down 3 targets.
I mean, it sounds great in theory, but
yeah, I don't think we're ever going to see it, but
no.
I mean, that's kind of the only way back in this game. Otherwise, this is going to happen.
Well, looks like the base is going to be cracked. Another javelin onto Joko, weaved right between everyone on Millenium. And Pretty will have to go back to base, so will the horse. Misfits will take bottom inhibitor, and this really looks like it's just going to be curtains. And this has not been how the series wanted to be panning out for Millenium. They really wanted those 3 points, but at the end of the day, we'll go home with absolutely nothing. Tabs chased down by Handsauer, going for this 1v1 in the middle of everything that's going on right now. Hooked by Ignar onto Pretty, and this should be the end of the game right here, with Misfits just killing everybody. There's nothing that Millenium can do. Pretty's alive, so is Masterwork, but it's just a matter of time before someone gets picked off. Joko, he's going to run in here. He's going to run out. Yeah, that was a mistake.
Gonna buy. No, he's going to buy. He's not going to die.
Okay,
he's buying. Right. He's buying.
Okay, Alphari, let's go back to the team. There is a horde of minions on this Nexus. And I'm pretty sure if Misfits can pick up more kills here, they will, instead of finishing the game. Joko, one last valiant effort. What? You can't just use the ultimate defensively there. Come on. Well, Misfits will close in onto the Nexus and get the 2-0 over Millenium today. Rage quit.
Yeah, I think highlight of that game was me spilling tea all over the caster desk.
Yeah, you come here for one day. Last time you just ruined the performance of the team. This time you just break everything.
To be fair, Misfits in this game, I actually liked a lot of the plays they made. I really liked Wisdom on his Nidalee, and again, as we talked about, there was nothing really stopping him from just going ham everywhere, and he did obviously have full pressure, and then the way they played with the Lucian in the side lane, push up, roam into mid every single time. Just gives you full control of the mid lane, which then obviously snowballs to the other side lane. So, too slow scaling composition from Millenium. Also, maybe overdoing the shielding just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
I mean, I would like to see just like a Victor instead of the Orianna in there. You can still lock in the Lulu and then debate the Tahm Kench for top. I actually think he's a stronger pick now. I think he's okay. But just too little pressure, honestly.
Yeah, that was pretty much the story of the game, really. I mean, Misfits were able to basically do everything that they needed to do, right? Like, they got all the fights that they needed. Ignore hit the hooks that they needed in the early game. Like, if they didn't have Ignore hitting hooks, maybe they would have been, like, 5 less kills, and maybe we could have seen Millenium get, like, later into the game, but it never really happened. Like, I actually never saw Tabs, like, in a fight before he was just, like, either his rest of his team was dead, or, like, he just didn't have the damage yet, because he had, like, a Hurricane and like a pickaxe, and that's like not enough when you have like such a strong mid-game setup. So,
but that's the great thing, right? When you have these lane swaps and you take down all these towers because you open up the map very quickly. And getting a 5-on-5 team fight after you just lost like 3-4 towers on each side almost never happens because everyone spreads out in their lanes again, and it becomes much more about who has the lane priority and who can actually push it all the way to enemy tier 2 tower, and then just start roaming. Because then again, how are you starting team fights? How are you getting a team fight? You're always sitting and defending at your tower if you are the weaker member. So like again, an Ashe compared to a Ghostblade Lucian, well, Ashe has to sit back and wait for the farms. He has to wait for food, while Lucian can always push in this move. And it's just so difficult when you have no early pressure. Like Hecarim can't do anything early game against the Nidalee. Orianna can't do anything early game against the Nidalee. So you're always going to lose the 2v2s as well. And then you run into one of these games where Misfits snowball out of control.
Pretty much. And it was a different game from the first one, though. It wasn't just like fighting all the time because we had that lane swap early. And then it was fighting all the time, but it wasn't back and forth. It was just like Misfits killing them constantly in every single fight and then taking the Baron. So, yeah, I mean, from that, I mean, we can see how like head and shoulders Misfits are over pretty much everyone else in this league currently. And heading, of course, into playoffs in a pretty good position.
First seed, I couldn't ask for much more. We'll obviously play against... Now, one of these 4 teams down towards the lower half of the standing, all fighting to avoid 4th place.
Yeah.
I don't think Misfits is going to be afraid of anyone, really, in these semifinals and final after in playoffs. So, great position for them to be in, where honestly you are by far the strongest team. Now, all that matters is that you don't obviously start becoming overconfident going into playoffs. Like, once you play that semifinal, once you play that semifinal, do your job, secure the final place, and then suddenly you can relax.
And it's sad. Still didn't get the perfect split. They lost that one game against Forge. So, unfortunately, just, still solid.
The one game.
That one game. But still, they got another 2-0 here, so that was good.
I mean, I guess Origin was the other team back in Challenger that were as dominant as we've seen Misfits be in this split.
That's the curse. That's the kiss of death, because we said that about Millenium last split, and then it went...
But now they've locked in first, right? So
that's true, right? But now we just need to see Misfits going into playoffs, because that's really where we saw problems from Millenium. So, yeah, don't give them the kiss of death just yet. It's always you. It's always you.
This is on Misfits, right? They're so far ahead of every other team. If they go into semifinal and they're like, yeah, the Fisher said this thing about us, where he now cursed us because he called us like the origin of the challenger scene from before, we're now going to lose, you know? I don't even feel bad about that. That's fine then. I'm okay with that.
All right. That's fine. Oh man, Deficio. Well, I believe we are setting up for an interview at some point, so we're still waiting on that. But that's why we're still here. At some point that will happen. Yeah, sorry, but we'll hear it from the guys themselves. But we're setting up for the next game as well. It's going to be Nerve and Epsilon. And I would ask you about your opinion on that, but
I mean, it's a game of two teams who not exactly have looked
great.
Too good.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, pretty much. I mean, bottom of the table, pretty much. But they still have a chance at redemption today.
2-0.
Because if they 2-0, they can maybe bunny hop into 4th place, and then they'll face Misfits,
Yay!
and it's like that's your prize.
There you go.
Into a best of 3, and then good luck.
Because let's remember, getting into the semi-final is great, but you haven't really achieved anything yet. There's no 3rd place you're playing for. It's like if you lose the semi-final, you lock a place for next year's challenger scene, which is important. So you actually do play for something. I was just lying to all of you.
Yep.
But you don't have a chance of getting into the promotion tournament. Like, you have to win that semi-final. Yeah. It's the 2 teams making the final who gets into promotion tournament, where obviously in the final they're playing for the title of the challenger champions, and also the seeding coming in, because you can actually dodge a full BO5 if you are the 1st seed.
Which is really valuable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Pretty much. And I mean, like, it's valuable, of course, to get like into the next split of Challenger, but you don't want to just be in Challenger forever, because that's been a story for like so many people in Challenger right now. Like, we've had so many people go from like LCS to Challenger and just be here for like in the retirement home, right? And just like never make their way back out. It's so close so many times and just drop back down.
But it's hard, right? Here. It's hard because if you're a Challenger team and you find like a really good lineup where some players stand out and they start improving a lot, There's quite a lot of LCS teams being, is that an 80 carry who's from Europe, so we don't even have to use an import slot on him?
Yep.
Or you tell him he's now old enough,
does it take you?
Yep, you're going to play over
and the rest of the team goes back down again.
And then obviously they suffer. So that's something we've seen in the past for Challenger teams, but also just consistency in lineups, obviously.
Yeah.
It has always been a big issue. And then one thing I know is a problem is the scrim culture, especially also for Challenger teams, because it can be very difficult to get scrims against LCS teams. So you start scrimming a lot of these teams around you that play either Challenger scene or are trying to make it into the Challenger scene. So you don't actually get to practice against good enough teams to really raise your level fast enough to then start competing with the LCS teams. Because if they just say no to scrimming you, and you're only scrimming teams around you who are at the same level,
then you're going to stay at the same level.
You're going to stay at the same level. Obviously, you don't just book a scrim with like G2 and then you play against them for 2 days and you start learning from what they're doing, and then suddenly you improve yourself. That doesn't happen. So it's really difficult to take that step and just move into the LCS unless you have a very talented lineup and you're able to keep the players together, which Misfits have been able to do for this split, which is why they're so exciting now. And I really can't wait to watch them in playoffs and hopefully in the promotion tournament.
I really want to see the evolution as Millenium as well, because I was impressed by them last bit, and this bit, like, they're probably still going to be 2nd, if not 3rd place, right? Like, they're still going to be going into playoffs. They still have potential because they have the same players, just with Tabs now. And like, Tabs hasn't done badly either. If anything, maybe he's added experience of a person who's been in a position of LCS and can like show what the team needed, because they were a fresh lineup. Like, the biggest surprise last bit was like they came out of nowhere, like literally nowhere. They came out of France and was like, oh, okay, we have another team. They dominated everybody. It's so rare you see like a full lineup of people you've never seen before, and then for them to do so well. So maybe with this team being together longer, we'll see better results for them now. But it's so difficult to tell because teams literally do like a 180 on everything we've seen out of regular season and playoffs. So it's so difficult to tell with these teams.
I mean, the same for EUCS, honestly, where teams will look really lackluster during the regular season, and then when you have the 2 weeks to practice from end of regular season week 9 into the first quarterfinal, these teams just make massive changes. Think of Fnatic last split.
Yeah.
They were number 6 going into it, and we were like, whoa, they had a terrible ending to the season.
No way they're going to get in
this. Doesn't look great. Vitality's going to be big favorites, and then Fnatic just managed to practice really well, change a lot of things, and actually came in and looked like a much better team and took out Vitality. The same thing obviously happens for Challenger teams. Like, you have now extra time to prepare, practice, and you go into these best-of series, like best of 3 BO5 series as well, where suddenly adaptation becomes even more important than just a BO2.
Yeah.
And also staying focused for quite some time. So that's obviously the big task now. But if you're on Misfits, the fact you can always fall back on individual talent is something none of the other Challenger teams can do. They always have to like perform at top level and also be consistent in terms of macro to beat Misfits.
Well, we can also hear it from the horse's mouth because I believe we do have Selfie and Ignar on the line.
2 guys.
We have. Hello. How are you? How are you both doing today? Well, that was a crazy series from you guys. How did you just feel about that series in general? Because it was a whole lot of fighting.
How do you feel? Feels good because my team is doing well. Then I feel happy. Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Selfie is also happy. That's good. Selfie, you've obviously been in the LCS before. You've been in North America a little bit. For you coming back to your playing the challenger scene, how's it been for you overall? Because you look really, really good in your games, and a lot of people probably expect you guys now to win playoffs.
I mean, I think like in our scrims and competitive games we're so ahead usually, and like I don't wanna like jinx anything, but I think if everything goes well, we should. I'm not gonna say qualify to LCS, but like go to promotion like easily.
I think most people would agree.
Yeah.
Promotion favorites going in, and a better chance, I would say, for these guys as well to qualify for LCS compared to the team's last split.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, do you guys do you have any fear against like anyone really in playoffs, in Challenger, even getting to promotion tournament? Because you just played against like second place Millennium and just wrecked them. So is there anyone like you're really fearing right now who could be on their way up?
The most scary opponent?
Yeah.
Who's the most scary opponent?
Opponent?
Yeah,
Which team?
in Challenger, yeah.
Nobody. Yes.
Millennium, I guess. I think Millennium are probably best second team.
Do you think they'll do better in playoffs compared to regular season? Because obviously this is a best of 2 and we'll move to like a best of format. So do you think they'll be better there? Because it didn't feel like there was any moment in that series where you guys felt that threatened by them.
I mean, I don't know. It's different for every team, but I think for us we'll do maybe even better because we are kind of like we already have our spot. We were kind of trolling today, but for other team, I don't know. I'm not playing with them, but I think for us it will be fine. But Millennium is like the team that like focuses on team play more, so maybe they will play better. I don't know. I think we will do better for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
You agree?
Yeah.
Agree. Yeah.
Good.
We all agree. We're all in agreement. Thank you very much, guys. That was a short interview, but congratulations on the win. And we'll see you in the playoffs as well.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you.
Simple.
Simple
I
as
like,
that. Who'd
I
you
like
fear?
that
Nobody.
Ignar as well jumps in, join the interview. And I think his answer is correct when he says nobody.
Yeah.
Like, who we afraid of? No one.
It's good to hear from them as well. It's just like, maybe like this could go wrong. And it's just like, yep, I mean, we just did really well in the split. Only lost once and did really well in every single game we played. So
Yeah, and obviously seeing a Selfie said, you know what, I think we're favorites to make it into promotion tournament.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say we're going to qualify for the LCS. I think that's the right attitude to have as well, because you can always ask these teams like, oh, if you were in the LCS right now with this lineup, where would you rank?
Yeah.
It's impossible to say, obviously, also for him.
because it's still changing, right?
Everything is changing, and you don't know when you actually play against these teams on stage. It's a very different experience compared to scrimming. So I think it's a good attitude to have, like, take it one step at a time, playoffs, make it into promotion tournament, and then you can start putting focus on can you beat these LCS teams on stage and actually make it into the LCS.
It's good because maybe that's been one of the biggest problems is overconfidence in their game and just going a little too ham. But yeah, it's good to hear from them as well that they do have that outlook. But either way, that does it for our first series of the day. We will be parting ways, unfortunately, with Deficio. So thank you very much for your services. But now we're going to get rid of you and we will be heading to a quick break. Well, we'll have Vedius back. So we'll see you then.